All right, good morning, class. My name is Martin Feery, and today we'll be going over the U.S. Senate Committee on Foreign Relations. So what we're going to be going over today is a little bit about the committee, what the committee covers, who makes up the committee, the legislation that's been involved with the committee, what PACs and donors have an interest in the committee, and then two specific members, both Senator Marco Rubio and Senator Bob Menendez. So the committee was established in 1816. It serves as essentially the congressional foreign policy wing, though generally the executive branch is the one in control of foreign policy. Its purpose is to express congressional opinion of foreign policy as well as regulate the commerce of either international trade deals such as the USMCA and tariffs, or even overseeing how specific rights are being handled in other countries. So, how are U.S. citizens treated in places like China, or if they were in somewhere in South America, Africa, so on and so forth. They're also in charge of managing and implementing foreign aid and loans, as well as bringing forth declarations of war. The committee makeup is the majority being Republicans and minority being Democrats. Obviously, since the Senate is controlled right now by the Republican Party, they make up the majority and therefore have the chairman's seat, who is who in this case is Chairman Senator James E. Reich. The minority ranking member is Senator Bob Menendez. Right now, there's 13 Republican members within this committee and 10 Democrat members. Okay, now we're going to be going over a couple pieces of legislation that has come out of the committee. So the first being the Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act of 2019. It was originally sponsored by Senator Marco Rubio, and its current status is that it is passed into law. Basically, what this piece of legislation does is it requests that the Department of State submit an annual report about the conditions in Hong Kong as far as it relates to judicial independence, civil liberties, democracy, just overall more of the civil rights side and civil liberties side of how people are treated within Hong Kong. And basically the Congress wants to see every year how is that changing. The second piece is that the Department of Commerce is to publish an annual report on how China is using Hong Kong to evade U.S. sanctions, international trade laws, so on and so forth. And then finally, it requires that the president monitor the treatment of U.S. citizens and businesses in Hong Kong, basically to ensure that China isn't having some sort of oversized role in how it is affecting U.S. business. It's not doing anything such as extraditing U.S. citizens to other countries or even to mainland China to face criminal charges, or even involve itself directly in U.S. businesses that are operating within Hong Kong. The second act that was passed out of the committee is the Saudi Arabia False Emergencies Act, or the SAFE Act. It was sponsored by Senator Bob Menendez, and it currently has passed the Senate, but has not passed the House or made it to the president's desk. Right, essentially what this relates to is the president using his emergency military powers to sell weapons to other countries, in this case specifically Saudi Arabia. What the Congress wants to do and the Senate specifically wants to do is take some of those powers back away from the president. All right, now let's look at some of the PACs and donors that have contributed to the committee. The largest sectors of contribution have been these that are listed in this graph below: finance, health, miscellaneous business, lawyers, ideology, and other. The blue on this graph represents the PACs, and the orange represents the individual donors. Overall, this only encompasses the top 6 donors, but there is a lot more that have contributed to this committee. Most of this money has been going to the Republicans. About 2/3 of the money has been going to Republicans, where about 1/3 has been going to the Democrats. The reason for this is mostly due to the immense amount of money that's coming out of the finance and other going to Republicans. So the other has predominantly made up of retirees, and retirees are one of the largest donors overall. Retirees also generally give to Republicans at about a 2/3 to 1/3 ratio. Out of all of these top 6 that are listed here, only one of these, which is the lawyers and lobbyists, gives the majority of their income to Democrats. The top 10 contributors are listed below. Club for Growth being a conservative ideological donor group. They pretty much try to give to specific representatives that are going to push for more economic freedom and the ability for individuals to control their money. Goldman Sachs is obviously an investment firm, and the fourth one listed there, NorthPac, is actually one of the biggest contributors to Democrats. They are in a nonpartisan pro-Israel lobbyist group, but the majority of their money does go to Democrats, with their biggest recipient in 2018 being Senator Bob Menendez. All right, let's look at specific senators. So starting off with the Republicans, we're going to go over Senator Marco Rubio. His top 5 contributors are listed there on the right side of the screen: Club for Growth, Elliott Management, the Villages Blackstone Group, and Florida Crystals. And we'll see how this influences his voting record. So the first one, Club for Growth. The senator does vote in line with the priorities of this group about 66% of the time, according to their 2019 report. Really, Senator Rubio tends to be somebody who wants the government to have less involvement in the economy anyways, and it is the position of Republicans. So it's not that unusual to see an ideological group like Club for Growth giving money to him, and him pretty much for the majority of time voting in line with him. But 66% does show that he's not at least to me, it shows that though he does vote with similar priorities of Club for Growth, even though they're his largest contributor, it doesn't seem like they're having an outsized influence in how he votes. The second is Elliott Management. It's an international hedge fund. Senator Rubio consistently votes for protecting American business overseas, as well as reducing international restrictions with the conduct of American business overall. He was, like I said, the sponsor for that bill for Hong Kong and how it relates to protecting businesses overseas in Hong Kong from Chinese influence or from other countries' influence. So an investment in an international hedge fund and giving money to him, not that surprising. The third is the Villages. It's a retirement community in Florida. Overall, Marco Rubio supports conservative values, protecting the retirement benefits of seniors. He's also sponsored a bill called the Let Seniors Work Act, which exempts seniors that are retired from paying Social Security taxes if they decide to go to work again while they're retired. So seeing a retirement community give money to him, once again, not that surprising. Number 4, Blackstone Group, private asset management. Rubio overall seeks to expand economic freedom internationally as well as internally in the United States, and has a grade of 81% for economic freedom by FreedomWorks. Seeing him try to expand that, giving businesses and even private asset management companies more room to manage their money how they will without government involvement, means that they would obviously be more likely to give him money for his elections. And then 5 is Florida Crystals. It's a sugar company. Big thing is sugar overall. It's a very heavily internationally dependent market. Like I said, Marco Rubio wants to protect American businesses and how they conduct business overseas. It's not really a huge surprise that they would give money to him, but it's also a local company, so they would have a more direct benefit from having somebody like Senator Marco Rubio fighting for more international freedom when it comes to how business is conducted. Overall, how I think this influences the voting of Floridians when it comes to electing Senator Marco Rubio. Obviously, like I said, retirees do have a pretty big incentive to be involved within elections. And obviously, Senator Marco Rubio has proven that he does want to protect their interests. So a lot of older individuals within Florida, a lot of retirees in Florida would be more likely to vote for him and contribute to him. Having large international hedge fund groups and companies that deal overseas might not be the best look in today's times as far as seeming corrupt or something like that. But if you look at his actual principles and how that would positively benefit these companies, of course they're going to want to throw their money behind them. Florida overall is a state with a higher population of elderly people, and they have more of an interest in protecting where their money's invested. So they might not see this too much as a negative, and I think his ability to get reelected has shown this. All right, now moving on to Senator Bob Menendez. So Senator Bob Menendez is the senator from New Jersey. His top five contributors are NORPAC, Lowenstein Sandler LLP, Corella Byrne, Pan Pinto Properties, and Insera Supermarkets. So starting with NORPAC. So NORPAC is a left-leaning pro-Israel lobbyist group, as I mentioned before. And Senator Menendez has remained a strong supporter of U.S.-Israeli relations, as well as voted to continue funding military aid packages to Israel. He was the largest recipient from money from NORPAC in 2018. Lowenstein Sandler LLP is a law firm. There wasn't really anything specific of why this law firm would be giving him a lot of money, other than it is the law firm itself. Law firms generally give money to Democrats and against Republicans because Democrats typically want to expand the administrative oversight of things like the medical industry or other industries, and this results in an increased legal cost for doctors and malpractice lawsuit recipients. So they have more of an interest in having that administrative oversight over a lot of industries, so obviously they can make money. So that might be one of the reasons, but anything specific of why this specific firm, it's really unclear. It is a New Jersey law firm, as well as Carol Byrne et al. The fourth is Pan Pinto Properties. So Senator Menendez does support expanding affordable housing within cities. He was involved in the Housing Opportunity Through Modernization Act, which basically just expanded how much protection people have under the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, making sure that people have more rights when it comes to if they're on any sort of social services for affordable housing. So a real estate developer might have interest in that, especially if they're being paid to do things like maintain public housing. Also, he supported a Marriott project that the company oversaw within Jersey City, New Jersey, and actually went to the opening for Pan Pinto's Properties, opening for their Marriott project. The fifth one is Insera Supermarkets, a supermarket company. If you're from the Northeast, you're probably familiar with a company called ShopRite. They're basically the owners of that. It's unclear as exactly why Insera supported the senator. Why he got so much money from Insera is kind of a little unclear. The owner of Insera is personal friends with Menendez, or at least I think he is, because he contributed $10,000 to Mendez's legal team when he faced corruption charges. That was in 2013. So it could have something to do with that. Overall, his voting record seems to be a little bit more, I would say, clouded. Maybe it's not as clear as to why all these groups are giving money to him, besides NORPAC. And it seems like, especially with Pan Pinto and Insera, that there might be a personal reason of why they're contributing money to him. And Senator Bob Menendez has in the past, like I said, faced corruption charges for giving basically personal favors to companies in return for campaign contributions and supposed bribes. Though all the charges were dropped against him. Like I said, he's faced that in the past. So I wouldn't say this has something to do with it, but it's not as clear as Senator Marco Rubio's. The other thing is, too, as how this affects his election chances within New Jersey. Obviously, it doesn't affect it at all. When he was in the process of fighting those corruption charges, he was up for re-election and beat his Republican opponent by almost 15 points. Like, to have such a huge margin of victory shows that obviously this isn't an issue that New Jersey residents care too much about. But it is something that maybe remains to be seen in the next time he's up for re-election. Overall, here are the sources. And that is it for the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it very much, and I thank you very much for listening.